Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling what's got to be one of the most frustrating, mind-bending paradoxes in business, and honestly, in society as a whole. Have you ever noticed how sometimes our absolute best, most brilliant solutions end up creating brand new, even more catastrophic problems? It's like we try to fix a tiny leak and we end up flooding the entire house. Why is predicting the future so incredibly hard? And more importantly, how do we stop being our own worst enemies when we try to innovate? Well, let's dive right in by anchoring our explainer with a classic, slightly ominous saying, "Be careful what you wish for." It's a cliché for a reason, right? Because when we introduce disruptive innovation, trusting in those motivational mantras like, embrace change, well, that just isn't a real strategy. In fact, relying on past best practices to solve entirely new problems often feels like you're driving a car forward at 100 miles an hour, but you're only looking in the rearview mirror.
Section 1. When good intentions go wrong.
You see, when we change the rules of the game at breakneck speeds across modern markets, we virtually guarantee black swan events, those highly improbable, totally unexpected disasters. And to prove this isn't just some abstract theory, let's rapidly fire through some monumental historical examples where highly effective innovations sparked absolute catastrophic chain reactions. Think about it. We introduce miracle drugs like antibiotics, and boom, what happens? We create drug-resistant superbugs. Lawmakers pushed rent control to keep housing affordable, and paradoxically, it turned cities like San Francisco into some of the most unaffordable places on the planet by pushing the middle class out. Oh, and the temperance movement? They successfully banned alcohol, which accidentally birthed the golden age of organized crime. Even well-intentioned homeownership programs pushing new mortgage tools eventually triggered global financial meltdowns. These weren't accidents born out of malice. No, they were the results of highly effective, incredibly well-meaning plans.
This phenomenon actually has a formal name. Back in 1936, sociologist Robert K. Merton defined the law of unintended consequences. It essentially describes the negative impacts generated by well-meaning human action. But here's the critical difference between, say, physics and business. Unlike atoms or inanimate objects, human beings are conscious agents. We anticipate things. If people fear a bank is going to fail, they rush to withdraw their money, which, ironically, causes the bank to fail. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We interact, we panic, we strategize. We are definitely not predictable robots.
Moving on to Section 2. From checkers to billiards.
Now, this idea completely upends how we've traditionally mapped out cause and effect in the corporate world. For decades, management has basically treated business like a linear game of checkers. We tend to view things as a zero-sum mechanical game against a single rival. I move my piece, I capture yours. Simple, right? But reality is way more like carom billiards. It's a non-zero-sum, highly systemic game. When you strike the cue ball in billiards, it bounces off the cushions and hits multiple other balls. Every single business move you make is doing exactly that, impacting multiple different external variables all at the exact same time. Your customers, your competitors, regulators, the local community, they are all reacting to your shot.
And honestly, that perfectly illustrates the massive limitation of our old problem-solving tools. Take the famous Ishikawa, or fishbone diagram. Developed back in 1949, it was absolutely amazing for assembly line workers trying to figure out exactly why a machine broke down yesterday. But it completely fails at showing how different factors will interact to generate totally new, unpredictable problems tomorrow. It's fantastic at analyzing past causes, but it's completely blind to future consequences.
Which brings us to Section 3, the cat's whiskers approach.
So we clearly have to shift our thinking here. While the traditional fishbone analyzes the origin of past problems, the cat's whiskers approach does the exact opposite. Just think about how a cat actually uses its whiskers. It feels out into the dark to sense obstacles before it bumps into them. We need to do exactly the same thing. We have to anticipate the social impacts and the consequences of our innovations before they even happen. We have to feel out for those potential black swans hiding in the dark.
So how do we actually do that? Well, the source material lays out 4 specific, critical steps to help us track this messy web of external impacts. Step 1, you have to look at the problem from outside your organization. This is what the source calls the mega level. Don't look at your internal operations first. Look outward at the market, the community, the environment. Step 2, track your actions and their impacts all along the actual value chain. Step 3 is to flowchart this entire messy systemic cause cycle. And finally, Step 4, identify the exact optimal entry points for your very first intervention.
Section 4, case study on the regional credit bank.
To see exactly how powerful this methodology really is, we're going to walk through a genuinely fascinating real-world crisis. The Regional Credit Bank, or RCB, was originally based in the city, but they went ahead and acquired some rural branches in an agricultural region. Almost immediately, they noticed bad loans were piling up. So, RCB headquarters did what most companies do. They looked inward. They instituted a brand new, highly automated credit scoring system to standardize everything across the board. But here's the catch. That rigid, automated system was designed for city dwellers, not rural farmers. Because the farmers didn't perfectly fit this strict new algorithm, their loan approvals were constantly delayed by the HQ Credit Committee. And without timely financing, the farmers couldn't buy and plant their seeds on time. Because they planted late, their harvest output fell. And because their harvest fell, they quite literally didn't have the money to repay their previous bank loans. The stakes here were just staggering. After one full year and spending several $1 million on a well-intentioned internal solution, the results were an absolute disaster. Delinquency actually went up, revenues went down, and the bank found itself totally trapped in a self-fulfilling prophecy. Their fancy new system labeled farmers as high risk, and by delaying their money, the system literally forced those farmers to become high risk. It was a complete self-destructing cycle.
Section 5. Breaking the systemic cycle.
So, how in the world do you fix a system that's actively destroying itself and taking its customers down with it? Well, RCB brought in external consultants who applied this exact cat's whiskers methodology. Instead of looking at the internal bank processes, they literally went out into the fields and talked to the farmers. They mapped out this intricate, sequenced flowchart. And by mapping out exactly how HQ's rigid rules triggered the delays, which then triggered the bad harvests, which ultimately triggered the bad loans, they were able to identify the exact entry points where the bank needed to intervene to finally stop the bleeding.
And this methodology was an absolute game changer. They ranked the problems by urgency, impact, and cost to pinpoint their best entry point. The highest urgency and highest impact didn't come from tweaking the software algorithm for the 100th time. No, the number one intervention was simply providing timely financing tied strictly to the farming cycle. The banks suddenly realized that aligning their loan approvals with the actual biological reality of planting seasons was the ultimate stop-loss mechanism. By fixing the external reality for the farmer first, those farmers could actually grow their crops, make their money, and, you guessed it, repay the bank.
This is the massive takeaway here. True performance improvement just doesn't happen when we obsessively optimize our internal symptoms, or when we try to win some imaginary zero-sum game. It happens when we align our actions with the external reality of the community and the broader market. When you finally step outside your organizational bubble and try to create value for the entire ecosystem, everybody wins. It's Karen Billiards, remember? You hit the cue ball in a way that sets up every single other ball on the table for success.
So I want to leave you with a bit of a drop-the-mic question to wrap up our explainer today. Take a hard look at the problems you're facing at work right now. Are you just fixing the symptoms inside your organization, or are you actually solving the system outside of it? Are you driving forward while staring into the rearview mirror, or are you feeling out into the dark like the cat's whiskers? Definitely something to chew on the next time you're about to launch a brilliant new solution. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Keep learning, keep questioning everything, and I will catch you on the next explainer.